Hello and welcome to Veterans Medals Workshop. We're glad to have you with us today because we're going to look at over 100 National Guard and State Guard headquarters patches, some of them stretching all the way back to World War II. We'll start out alphabetically with the Alabama National Guard headquarters insignia, which depicts the cotton ball and the plant from the State Military Department crest. The center is the 1941-1942 shoulder patch worn by the Alabama State Guard, which depicts the state coat of arms. The upper right corner is the seal of Spain, and in the left upper corner is the seal of France, and down in the lower left corner is the seal of the flag of Great Britain, and the lower right corner is the flag of the Confederacy. In the very center is the shield of the United States, and the crest is supported by two eagles. For Alaska, the Alaskan Territorial Guard patch formed in 1942 is shown on the left, and then the current patch of the Alaskan National Guard headquarters, which depicts the constellation of Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, from the state flag. The orange background patch is for the Alaska Defense Force, and the patch on the far right is the Alaska Territorial Guard patch that was used in 1947. The current insignia of the Arizona National Guard headquarters is shown on the left. The older insignia in the middle suggests a sunset from the state flag, and it's also shaped like a map of the state. The 1941 Arkansas Guard patch is shown on the left. The letters AG stand for Arkansas Guard, and on the right is the current Arkansas National Guard headquarters insignia, which depicts a razorback hog, suggesting the University of Arkansas. 25 stars, alluding to the fact that Arkansas was the 25th state to join the nation, and the diamond shape suggests that it's America's only diamond field, which is located in Arkansas. California National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a walking grizzly bear from the state's military department crest, and just to the right of it is the old California National Guard headquarters insignia. And because California is such a large state, I thought I would show some of the other patches from, the original California Defense North patch, the California Defense South patch, the State Guard patch, and some other variations of the State Military Reserve patches. And the California State Militia patch. On your left is the patch of the Colorado Defense Force from the 1940s, and in the center is the same patch but amended to be for the Colorado State Guard. The patch on the far right is the Colorado National Guard headquarters insignia, which depicts a C for Colorado. The colors in the design are all from the state flag. On your left are two Connecticut State Guard patches that were used in the 1940s, and in the center is the Connecticut National Guard headquarters insignia, which depicts a grapevine from the state's military department crest. The old National Guard headquarters insignia is shown on the right, and the really neat Governor's Horse Guard patch is shown on the far right. The Delaware State Guard was actually organized prior to World War II, and the Delaware National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a griffin's head from the state's military department crest. The first two patches are early World War II Florida Defense Force patches, while the Florida National Guard headquarters insignia depicts an outline of an old Spanish fort located in St. Augustine, and it alludes to the state's early Spanish settlers and military history. The patch on the far right is the Florida State Guard patch. The Georgia State Defense Corps was organized in 1940, and it was redesignated the Georgia State Guard in 1943. The Georgia National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a boar head from the State Military Department crest. The Guam headquarters patch almost looks like a travel poster, while the current Hawaiian headquarters patch has the head of an ancient Hawaiian warrior. The older version had the word Hawaii underneath it, as seen on the right. The Idaho Volunteer Reserve and Idaho State Guard patches are from the 40s. The Idaho National Guard headquarters, the original design, depicted an elk's head, which was suggested by the state's military department crest. On the left is the Illinois Reserve Militia that was formed in the 1940s, and the Illinois National Guard headquarters insignia depicts the head of President Abraham Lincoln and suggests the state's Land of Lincoln theme. The first two patches represent the Indiana Civil Defense Force and the Indiana State Guard. The patch on the far right is the Indiana National Guard headquarters insignia depicting the torch and the star from the state's flag. The star represents the state of Indiana, which was the 19th star on the flag. The Iowa National Guard headquarters original design insignia depicted the eagle with a scroll from the state flag. The current National Guard headquarters, the new design insignia depicts the hawk from the state's military department crest. The Kansas National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a large sunflower, which suggests the crest from the state flag and the state's military department crest. The Kansas State Guard patch is shown on the right. Kentucky Active Militia was organized in 1940. The Kentucky National Guard headquarters original design insignia depict a Kentucky long rifle and a quill pen. The colors red, white, and blue suggest the national colors, and yellow, red, and blue the combat arms. The new design is the same as the earlier design, except the quill was removed at the request of the state's military department. The Louisiana State Guard was activated in 1942. And the Louisiana National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a pelican from the state's military department crest. The Maine State Guard and Maine State Guard Reserves were organized around 1942. The Maine National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a green pine tree over a yellow sun, which suggests the state's seal. The pine tree alludes to the state of Maine, and the sun alludes to the fact that Maine is the first state that the sun shines on, I guess when it does shine up there. The 13 rays suggest the original 13 states. On your left is an early Maryland Minuteman patch, and then the Maryland State Guard patch. The Maryland National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a design from the state flag and coat of arms. The design was originally taken from the coat of arms of George Calvert, Lord Baltimore, who founded the state of Maryland. Massachusetts National Guard headquarters insignia depicts the right arm of Miles Standish, taken from the state's military department crest. Miles Standish was an early military leader from the Plymouth colony. The Michigan State Troops were organized in World War II, and the Michigan National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a griffin from the state's military department crest, as shown here. The Minnesota State Guard was formed during World War II, and the Minnesota National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a star for which, it alludes to Minnesota as a Star of the North. The waves at the bottom of the patch suggest the rivers and the lakes of the state. The World War II Mississippi State Guard patch is rather unique. The Mississippi National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a trident and a magnolia blossom that alludes to the state's military department crest. The trident suggests the ancient god Neptune, who was a god of waters, and alludes to the Mississippi River and the state. During World War II, the Missouri State Guard had up to 6 infantry regiments in the State Guard, plus mounted forces, as you can see by some of their patches. The Missouri National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a standing grizzly bear from the state's military department crest. On your left is the Montana National Guard headquarters insignia, which depicts one of the Great Rocky Mountains. To the unique patch in the center is the Nebraska State Guard patch from World War II, and it has the name Nebraska State Guard superimposed over the silhouette of the state capitol in Lincoln. Nebraska National Guard headquarters insignia, shown on the right, depicts an ear of corn taken from the state's military department crest. In World War II, Nevada chose not to organize the State Guard. The Nevada National Guard headquarters insignia that's shown depicts a star above a reef of sagebrush, and it's taken from the state flag. The star suggests the state of Nevada, as does the shape of the patch. The New Hampshire State Guard was organized in 1941, and there are variations of the patch that might have the word reserve underneath it. The red star was worn by the State Guard members of the governor's personal military staff. The New Hampshire National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a circle of 8 small stars, which allude to the first 8 states, and a large star, which of course alludes to New Hampshire as the 9th state to ratify the Constitution, thus making it effective. The bundle of 5 arrows were taken from the state seal of 1776 and suggests the first 5 countries of New Hampshire, which were bound together in a common government and defense. While there was a New Jersey State Guard in World War II, it was disbanded in 1946. And the New Jersey National Guard headquarters insignia, it depicts a lion's head from the state's military department crest. I need to start with the old New Mexico National Guard headquarters insignia, which is in the center because it depicts their sun symbol, and that was approved in 1955, and it was the state's official emblem and originated from the Indians of the Pueblo. The design accurately portrayed the sun symbol, and it was thought by many to be a desecration of the sacred religious symbol. The current New Mexico National Guard headquarters insignia also depicts the sun symbol, but more closely resembles the original design, and it was approved in March of 1975. On the far right is a New Mexico Defense Force patch. Oh, one more thing. If you enjoy these programs, please give us a like, or even better, subscribe. I mean, really, it's a lot better for us if you subscribe, because that'll keep us on the air. Okay, let's get back to the program. The New York National Guard headquarters patch has a very interesting history. The first insignia, shown on your left, depicts the ship the Half Moon and alludes to the state's military department crest. The Half Moon was the name of a ship that Henry Hudson commanded in 1609 when he explored what is now the Hudson River. The round patch was adopted for wear in 1948, but then it was changed to a new design of the half moon more closely resembling the state's military department crest. The patch was also larger. Current New York National Guard headquarters patch is shown in the center. It's also referred to as the Joint Force Headquarters patch. The shape of the patch is the same as that of the First Army, the command area of which New York is a part of. The blue background color is the state color. The yellow crown is from the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor, and the vertical red sword is both a symbol and a color representing command. 2 variations of early New York State Guard patches are shown on the right. On your left is an early version of the North Carolina State Guard patch, while on the right is the North Carolina National Guard headquarters insignia, and it depicts a large hornet and its nest and alludes to the state's military department crest. On your left is the North Dakota National Guard headquarters insignia, which depicts a bow and 3 arrows and is from the state's military department crest. On your right is the North Dakota State Guard patch from World War II, and you'll note that the word state has an outline of a state around it. On your left are 2 unique Ohio State Guard patches from World War II, the regular Ohio State Guard and then the Ohio State Naval Militia that was in fact in force until it was disbanded in 1947. The unique Ohio National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a large buckeye and the star and suggests the state flag. Ohio is called the Buckeye State after the buckeye tree that grows there. The star suggests Ohio, the 17th state, as placed on the state flag, and the shape of the patch suggests the pennant shape of the flag. Oklahoma did not have a state guard during World War II, and the Oklahoma National Guard headquarters insignia depicts an Indian wearing a war bonnet and suggests the early settlers of the state, as well as the fact that the state was once Indian territory. The Oregon State Guard patch shown on your left, the Guard was organized in 1941. The older Oregon National Guard headquarters insignia in the center depicts a beaver, which is taken from the state's military department crest, and also the dome from the Capitol building at Salem, Oregon. The new crest of the Oregon National Guard headquarters is a dark blue shield with a rising sun with two superimposed bayonets over the sun, and in the background is Mount Hood. The Puerto Rican State Guard was organized in 1942. The patch that you see on the left was a variation between 1945 and 1946, and occasionally they used a tab that said Puerto Rico National Guard, is seen in the center. The Puerto Rican National Guard headquarters insignia depicts two towers which represent the fortress of El Morro that once protected San Juan Harbor, and alludes to the fact that the Puerto Rican National Guard is always ready to defend its homeland against aggression. The cross suggests the city of San Juan, which is the capital of Puerto Rico and the site of the National Guard headquarters, and it also alludes to the fact that San Juan was one of the first Christian communities established in 1508 in America. On your left is a patch of the Rhode Island State Guard that was formed in 1940 and the Rhode Island State Guard Reserve Force. Former Rhode Island National Guard headquarters insignia depicted an anchor on a red shield, which suggests the state flag and the crest. The new insignia, shown on the far right, adds a bayonet to the anchor and changes the colors to be the national colors of red, white, and blue. The interesting patch on the left is the South Carolina Defense Force patch that was organized in 1941. And the insignia depicts a torn-up oak tree with its branches lopped off, laying at the base of a palmetto tree growing on the seashore. Beneath the trees, the Latin phrase translates, "The change establishes more firmly." That appears above the date 1776. The prostrated oak symbolizes the victory of Fort Moultrie, which was built on palmetto logs, over the British forces in 1776. To the right, the South Carolina National Guard headquarters patch depicts a palmetto tree and a crescent, which suggests the state's military department crest. To the right is the World War II South Dakota State Guard patch, which depicts the tips of four arrows which join together to form a cross. The arrowheads suggest the four Indian tribes of the state, and the letters represent the unit designation, South Dakota State Guard. South Dakota National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a coyote from the state's military department crest. On your left is the patch of the Tennessee State Guard that was organized in 1941. The central design of 3 stars was taken from the state flag, and Tennessee was the third state to join the Union after the original 13, and each of the 3 stars represents one of these 3 states. They also represent the 3 grand divisions of Tennessee, East, Middle, and West Tennessee. Tennessee National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a hickory tree and the 3 stars from the state's military department crest. The hickory tree alludes to the general, Old Hickory, and later President Andrew Jackson. The 3 stars represent the 3 grand divisions of the state, East, Middle, and Central, or Western Tennessee. Texas National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a white star, the Star of Texas, above a wreath of live oak and olive from the state's military department crest. The Texas State Guard was established in 1941, and the patch is a blue shield with a Star of Texas in the center with a superimposed red T, which forms the national colors of red, white, and blue. To the left is the original Utah National Guard headquarters insignia, which depicts a bee and a beehive, which suggests the state's military department crest, and the design of a state flag. The round patch was approved for wear in 1956, and the beehive represents the industry and activity of the people of the state. The Utah National Guard new design insignia also depicts the bee and the hive, but the design and the shape of the patch were changed at the request of the state officials and now more closely represents the state's seal. The new design was approved in 1964. Utah State Guard was formed in 1941, and on your left is a old variation of Utah State Guard patch, and on the right is the current variation. On your left is the patch of the Vermont State Guard, and it was organized in 1941. The stag's head was taken from the Vermont coat of arms, and the green color suggests the Green Mountains of Vermont and the Green Mountain Boys, who organized a militia in Vermont in 1764, several years before America was even born as a nation. The Vermont National Guard headquarters design suggests the historical origin of a Vermont National Guard from the Green Mountain Boys of 1764, who wore a sprig of pine in their hats. The green and gold background colors represent traditional Vermont state colors. And the patch was officially approved in February of 1952 and was used until 1957, when it was replaced by the patch to the right with the stag head on a blue background. However, in 1876, the Vermont state officials requested that the old design be approved for use again to celebrate the United States bicentennial and to honor the military heritage of the state. So the colonial hat design patch was again authorized for wear as of July 1976. Virgin Islands National Guard headquarters patch shows a rising sun over 3 green mountains representing the islands on a deep blue sea. The Virginia Protective Force was organized in 1941 and redesignated as the Virginia State Guard in 1944. The State Guard was disbanded in 1947, but the design of a shoulder patch worn by the State Guard was taken from the state flag and seal. The Virginia National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a spear cutting a chain and suggests Virginia's role in the Revolutionary War. The two charges form the letter X, which is the Roman numeral for 10, and that alludes to the fact that Virginia was the 10th state to join the United States. The far right is the National Guard headquarters insignia of Washington, D.C., which has a rising sun behind the Capitol dome. The Washington State Guard was actually organized in October 1940 and reached over 4,000 officers and men, and so the patch on the left indicates that there are a lot of subunit designations for companies and a number of the companies. The raven on the crown has to go for a special uniform insignia for officers, and you can see that on the right where it has the word Washington State Guard. It has a raven on a crown and then the blue and white colors, and that was used on the uniform, the formal uniform of Washington State Guard during World War II. The Washington State National Guard headquarters insignia was approved in 1952 and depicts a raven on a crown, and it was suggested by the State Military Department crest. And those devices were from the coat of arms of George Washington, of course, whom the state was named after, but it's the only design of this ilk that's been approved by the U.S. Army Institute of Heraldry for our National Guard headquarters. West Virginia State Guard was formed in 1942 and has probably one of the most unique patches of all. It's taken from the back of the West Virginia State Seal, and in the center of the design is a rock with ivy, and on the face of the rock is the inscription June 20, 1863, reflecting the date of the state's entry into the Union. On the left is a farmer standing beside a plow with an axe in his arm, indicating the territory was in the process of being farmed and cleared. A miner with a pickaxe on his shoulder stands to the right of the rock beside an anvil on which rests a sledge hammer, which are all indicative of the principal pursuits and resources of the state. In front of the two figures, 2 hunters' rifles are crossed with a cap of liberty, indicating our freedom and liberty were won and maintained by force of arms. The West Virginia National Guard headquarters insignia, shown on the right, depicts a flintlock rifle, a powder horn, and an axe, which suggests those items which were inseparably linked with the early pioneers who settled the state. The Wisconsin State Guard was formed in 1941, and the central theme on the Wisconsin State Guard insignia is the badger. To the left and center, you can see some interesting variations of the badger patch for the Wisconsin State Guard. but the one in the center probably represents it best, where it has WIS for Wisconsin in the top of a circle above a red badger, and below it the initials SG for State Guard. Far right is the Wisconsin National Guard headquarters insignia, which depicts a badger's head and alludes to the state's military department crest, a walking badger. Wyoming State Guard was established early in 1941. The design of the two patches that you see on the left and in the center were worn when the state forces were first organized. The design of the patch is a representation of a state flag, and the colors red, white, and blue are the state and national colors. The bison was taken from the state seal and suggests the once dominant nomad of the plains. The Wyoming National Guard headquarters insignia depicts a cowboy riding a running horse, and that suggests the early founders of the state who were attracted by the open ranges. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We enjoyed putting it on. And if you liked it, give us a like, even better, subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Veterans Medals Workshop. Special thanks to Medals of America and Fountain Inn, South Carolina for all of their support on these videos.